I really like hemlock. This stuff is pretty good. You got some slight grain here, but it's light. It does seem to be a little bit more dense than pine. That tower heater is not ready to go in 30 minutes. You got to let that thing heat up. But then again,
You're not idling there by yourself. It's like you're constantly doing something besides sweating.
Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta. Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta.
we're live. Welcome, everybody. We're doing an impromptu live stream of the upper bench. We're chatting here with Risto and Eero. How are we, gentlemen?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm still a little jet lagged. I was in Finland for almost a couple of weeks, came back, and we had a big Finnish American get together on Friday. But no, good. There's been a lot of good sauna in my life as of late, and I'm a happy camper.
I believe that. I believe that. And then Arrow, you got to meet kind of a Finnish celebrity the other night, comedian.
Oh, Ismo, super funny guy. He was actually, I think, 10 years ago, he was voted to be the funniest guy on earth.
I've seen a few of his bits. They're pretty good.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how people like me, I'm kind of shy with my accent, but then again, you can use that as a weapon, as this guy has done. It's like the whole point is that he's got a thick accent and he's using that a lot.
Well, it helps us. Your accent gives us credibility. Otherwise, I have to fake a Finnish accent.
I I ended up sounding Scottish with Southern Minnesota twang. Yeah, no thanks.
We could probably do the Minnesotan accent. That gives us at least a little bit of credibility, don't you know?
What was interesting, one of the last jokes that he did was about sauna. We don't have to go there, but it's these saunas that you can't throw water on the rocks and whatnot, which is the basis of the whole sauna experience. Yeah, it was funny. People were extremely happy. The only thing is that when you throw a party like that, like in our case, it was a 3 hour party. We had a minute schedule. Every minute was counted for. And as a host, basically, there's no way you could relax. But after all this stuff, it's good. And weather is beautiful in New York. So we're unwinding here doing the upper bench stuff, which is the best way to unwind, if you ask me.
Yeah, good deal. No, it's good to be here. As some of you may know, have been following me around. I haven't had power. This is the first weekend that I've been back with power after Hurricane Helene. We fared pretty well compared to our friends up north in North Carolina. We're down here in South Carolina. Still lost power, lost plenty of trees. Still a lot of stuff and a lot of cleanup to be done. But yeah, if you can say something, thoughts, prayers, whatever your flavor is, make sure you're maybe doing something for those affected. There's just a lot of people that are without. So keep them in mind. It is a terrible situation up there. And what can you do when that much water and that much stuff happens, wind and everything, the mudslides, the rivers, it's horrible. So we're thinking about you and pulling for you guys up there in Western and Tennessee. So take care, guys. If you are up there, if you're any fans up there, feel free, comment below, make sure you're doing okay. And if there's anything that we can do for you, by all means, please reach out. We'd love to help you however we can. So yeah, definitely thinking about you guys up there. As far as sauna goes, that was a lifesaver for me. While we didn't have power, I had my wood burning stove. So boom, I was at least able to get warmed up and we had running water. It was pretty chilly, no water heater, but I was able to at least get a hose going, use a little bit of that creamy soap that we like so much with the pine tar, and I was able to kind of trudge through and make it work while we didn't have power. But a lot of grilling out, a lot of sauna, a lot of sitting outside and just kind of seeing what was going on. But it was a good time to almost relax and unwind and get away from the screens and get back to connecting with the people around you. So that was the one benefit of anything that came of all of this. But really glad that I had access to a good sauna now and then.
By the way, did you have personal damage there at or was it just a power outage?
We lost a few trees in the yard. We had one tree come down in the yard that barely grazed us, just the tops barely grazed the house. No damage really, but we did have some older shingles. They definitely are starting to curl. We're going to have to see what we can do about that. We fared pretty well comparatively. So I've got a little poison ivy to show for all the tree trimming and everything else that I've been doing, but still we're fortunate, which is great. But I've already gone through a couple different chains for the chainsaw. plenty of firewood to be had around here.
Yeah, that's one good argument for a wood burning sauna is that if you have a time when the power goes out, which often is other stuff's going on when the power goes out, now you have a place to cook and your sauna is still functional.
Oh, absolutely. I've got hunting land up in northern Wisconsin that has a container on it with a sauna stove. And I just made sure the rocks were level with the top of the stove. So I have a kind of a flat surface. And I was able to put an old grill grate over the top of it. And we can actually use it as a cooktop. And so, I mean, it's a little low and slow, but when you're up there camping, you've got nothing but time. So you can make a pot of stew. If it takes you an hour, it takes you an hour. But hey, you've got hot food. And really, I can't say enough praises for anything that's wood fired. And especially nowadays, if you're living in an area that is prone to power outages, having heat and warm food is just critical to the morale. If you're always having to eat cold spaghettios out of a can in the dark, you're gonna deteriorate a little bit quicker than somebody that's got a nice warm meal, warm sauna, some hot water, and they're cleaning up and they're fresh. So I can't speak highly enough about that because everybody can put a little pot of water on top of their sauna stove, have some hot water, bring it outside, soap up, wash off. So you got to do that a few times. You're going a few rounds anyway. So what's the bother? And really, that's just one of the cornerstones of any sort of survival situation. Hygiene is going to be key. It doesn't take very long for you to start funking up, and pretty soon you've got your other issues you got to deal with. So make sure, yeah, you're staying clean. So I can't recommend it enough. You got multiple uses out of that, be it relaxation, be it cooking, be it heat, be it hygiene. You've got all those bases covered if you've got a wood burning sauna. So again, can't stress enough.
It was an interesting thing, actually. I just told that I was in Finland. So I did 2 nights at my father-in-law's summer house. And I actually did the whole 9 yards. So we did cook some sausage on the stovetop, and the stove has a water tank, so we heated water. My wife, we were such sissies, the water was already in the 40s. So we decided not to go in, but we heated some water and we washed and rinsed in the hot room. But it's very authentic, and we had that storm lamp out the window, outside the window, so we had a nice light there and everything. It was very, very beautiful, and luckily we didn't have those obstacles that you had. But yeah, sauna is essential. When you go back in history, they didn't have power outages, they didn't have any power. So you did the right thing.
Yeah, so we fared all right. We lost a few items in the fridge, but oh well. I definitely tried to grill as much as I possibly could. So we had chicken wings and burgers almost every night. We were eating just fine. I believe that probably the most difficult thing was, yeah, just keeping the humidity down in the house. You can't run fans, you can't run your AC. So it gets a little warm, gets a little stagnant in the house. But if that's the worst thing that we had to deal with, we counting our lucky stars. So again, what do? You got to just keep going. So make sure if you do have these types of things, you're prepared. I've got a cordwood sitting behind the shed. I'm ready to go for my next 100 saunas are always accounted for. And if I start getting low, hey, guess what? You don't want to be sitting there with two sticks in your hand and you want to have a sauna and you've got no wood. So make sure you're good and stocked up on that kind of stuff because yeah, you never know when you need to tap into it for a long time. So but yeah, Risto, now we're going to Toronto. Are there any wood burning stoves that we might see up there in any of the banyas or public saunas that we're going to?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember my favorite one up there, Southwestern Bathhouse. I'm trying to remember if theirs is wood fired or gas fired. Gas fired is pretty common for public banyas, but I can't remember. I know the Dallas banya is wood fired, and Southwestern might also be wood fired. Chicago Sweat Lodge is gas, I believe.
It'll be interesting to talk to some of those proprietors and just kind of see some of the challenges that they might face. But
Yeah.
I mean, imagine code and everything like that is going to be tricky when you're dealing with the public. You've got open flames everywhere. So I can see where some of those challenges come from. But I think if you're doing it responsibly, it's a heating source. It's just like anything else. How many of these barn restaurants have that chicken spit? And they've got the rotisserie chicken. There's an open flame there. Why not get some rocks on there and some water going too while you're at it?
Yeah, or wood-fired pizza ovens. Most big cities will have a bunch of places like that.
So, yeah, I know you guys are working on all that UL stuff and all that safety listing stuff. I think we've got a long way to go here before everybody understands sauna. And really, that's our mission here at the Upper Bench. We're just helping people understand sauna a little bit better, sharing our love and our passion of it. So, hopefully, you learn something while you listen to this stuff. Otherwise, just have a good time and try something new. And it doesn't matter if it's electric, wood fired, gas fired, whatever it is. Go enjoy it with some fun people. That's what we're going to do when we go up to Toronto here in a couple of weeks. We're going to meet a bunch of listeners, a bunch of sauna professionals. We're going to be live streaming a lot of it. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll make sure we got all the dates and links and all that stuff up. But we're going to have a good time, regardless of where we're at. We're going to have a good time. I'm really looking forward to the food. Risto and I were talking about that right before we got started here. We were talking about dumplings, all kinds of good Asian food, noodles, ramens, all kind of pot stickers and egg rolls. And I'm gonna come back about 30 pounds heavier after this trip. So we're gonna be sweating it out though in the sauna. So we got to stay hydrated and make sure we're well fed. It's gonna be a marathon of sauna.
I was at the party on, like I said, on Friday, and somebody was talking about Toronto. It's a huge city. It's like one of the top five maybe cities in North America or something like that. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, one of the top in Canada for sure. As far as the Northeast is concerned, yeah, it's a major hub, a
Mm.
lot going on. I know traffic, I always hear about different DC traffic's real bad, New York traffic's real bad. I know Toronto's got a pretty big stigma with bad traffic, so a lot of people.
It truly is exciting. Looking forward to it.
My hope is that we can arrange some of the Venic treatments, or Finnish, it would be Vita or Vasta. We went up to a lake a few weeks ago with my family, and I stopped up at some of the Eastern European grocery stores in the Twin Cities. They have little tiny markets, and they sold oak and linden for the branches. And so we got some and we tried that out. It was a big mess, but it was pretty fun. I think it's definitely good enough that people should try and work that into their sauna practice. But you do need just a word of warning. If you're doing it for someone else, your hands end up going high. So you do need gloves, or else your hands get fried pretty quickly.
Yeah, I suppose you're waving your hands around all over, just like you'd be waving a towel. It's gonna you get pretty steamed up pretty quick. I've never really had anyone do that to me. I've had where, you hit yourself once in a while or something like that. I've definitely done that, but I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'll be interested to see how, hey, yeah, really hard. In my mind, I've got this image of somebody's 6'6", big burly Russian dude, and he's just hitting me over the back with a big oak branch, but hopefully somewhere in between there. I'm a big fan of getting massages or things like that with different back issues. So I'm all for it. When in Rome, you gotta try it out.
Yeah, I come from a tradition when you basically mostly do it for yourself.
Yeah.
But I've said before, I've told you about the Ukrainian treatment that I've been lucky enough to get a couple of times, and it's intense. It truly is intense. It's almost like a sauna 2.0 or 3.0 or something. So it comes pretty extreme. Coming back to one of the main topics that we talk very often about, I was having some sauna meetings while I was in Finland, and I also met Karida Harju from Sauna from Finland. I went to her place and we had a nice chat together. But some Finnish folks brought it up to me that are we too negative? Are we pushing the Finnish style sauna too hard? Risto says no. But yeah, so it's like people have a feeling that we don't come out into different forms of thermotherapy, that we should allow all the flowers to bloom. But obviously, the one and hence we're called the upper bench because we want to have people on the upper bench. If there's one good for you, try it out. But anyway, so
Well, yeah, I think there's more than just as far as different types of thermal therapy or sweat bathing. There's different ones that are also good. I would love to try a real Turkish hammam. Put me in one of those heated Korean or Chinese caves. Yes, for sure. Or like the Japanese furrow or onsen. I would love that. And I have nothing bad to say against those. And then you have the ones that are like the cousins or the siblings to sauna. Banya, Estonian Sound, I think they call it, or what's the Latvian word? Is it Pirtis, or is that Lithuanian?
Yeah.
But there's these different ones. I apologize if I'm getting the names wrong, that are almost basically the same and they have their own emphases. And those are all wonderful. All I have to say is like the American one sucks. I grew up with it. That one can just go away. And then there's gonna be other styles that I don't connect with as much. So, like the German conception, I'd like to experience it a little bit more before I say too much, but that's probably not so much with me with the sand timers and the disco Aufguss stuff.
That's an interesting thing because so obviously the Aufguss thing, there's a lot of spas in North America that are now waking up that we have to do this Aufguss thing. It's very important. And I'm sure that it's very important for these spas. But at the same time, obviously, it grows out of maybe, and I'm being probably naive here a little, but it grows out of that notion that inside the hot room and there's nothing to do, which is kind of wrong notion because there should be a lot to do. Throw water, you use the vihta, vasta. So there's basically when you do the traditional thing, you're not idling there by yourself. It's like you're constantly doing something besides sweating. So in a way, how my mindset works, you're going a little to the wrong direction because you want to be watching a show. But then again, who am I to blame? It's not my tradition, but good for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would try it. Definitely, I would try it. And
Mhm.
I think it does have some roots and some really traditional stuff that I would enjoy.
I think I equate Aufguss to sauna kind of like it's the spin class at the gym. The sauna is exercise, and Aufguss is the little class that you get offered where you can go meet up at 9 o'clock and you are all going to go do the same thing. And you're going to be instructed. There's going to be a leader telling you what to do or kind of running the show. And then it's going to be really structured. And then you're going to feel great afterwards. Maybe you're going to be distracted from whatever you got going on. But I do feel like it's a lot more of a class. Hey, it's this little event, but people are going to be doing some song and dance too. And so that's great. So it brings people in, it gets them exposed to it. And if they're a little bit shy or they don't, maybe they're going by themselves. We've talked about that before too. I think Aufguss is a great way. If you're by yourself and you're shy and you're looking to get into sauna for the first time, go check that out because you're not going to be pressured to talk to anybody sitting next to you because there's going to be something going on. Nobody's going to be looking at you if you're self-conscious or anything like that. There's going to be something distracting everybody. So you can blend into the background and come and go just like everybody else. And if you want to dip your toes in it, it's never going to be extreme either. They know that they're going to have first timers there. They're going to have people that are new to sauna or maybe don't go as frequently. So it's not going to be crazy hot and it's going to be a lot more open to newcomers where if you know that there's a bunch of grumpy old dudes that you can't understand that go on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m., you might not want to go with them. Maybe that's a little intimidating because they've got thick Russian accents or Finnish accents or German accents or whatever it is. And you don't know if they're talking about you and they're looking at you funny because you got your swim trunks on. So take a look at some of those offerings because I think it's a great intro. But again, I don't think it's the whole kit and caboodle either. Just like the one class at the gym isn't exercise. That's a whole experience, the whole way of life. It's a whole way of thinking about it. If it's a little bit fun and organized and gets you out there and doing it, all the better.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I think there is a place for it. But I do share Arrow's concern for it could lead people to kind of a passive experience of sauna, that they think that they always need the sauna meister, the expert to make my expert steam for me. And then if they're not making it, then we're basically sitting in a dry space where I want to see everyone become a sauna meister to learn how to make steam and make it well. It's like the difference between a barbecue restaurant in your town versus you got your own smoker and now you're learning how to smoke the brisket.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that analogy too, because you're not going to learn unless you screw up or unless you get out there and try things. Because if everybody's always doing it for you, you're along for the ride and you're not learning enough. You're having a good time. Absolutely. But, give it a whirl yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got regarding trees in the chat here, all the way from New Zealand. So we want to give a shout out. Thanks for joining us here. Look, all the way from New Zealand. He's got a couple different saunas that he's gone to, but a couple different varying degrees of quality. We've talked to a couple guys. We had a podcast not too long ago where we interviewed a guy from Australia with a public sauna, and he's really into the Australian sauna scene. So, and I got to imagine it's drifting all the way to New Zealand. So that's really cool to see. Hey, we've also got one more here. I am going to butcher that username here. Rocadatrol Rocadotrol? Yeah. Hey, what's up, man? He's from Nova Scotia, Canada. We're coming your direction. We might not be there all the way, but hey, we're coming your way in a few weeks here when we go to Toronto. If you're in Toronto area, November 7th through the 11th, check us out. Drop us a line. We're going to be in and around a bunch of different public saunas. So if you want to come and sit on the bench with us, you're more than welcome. We would love to come and meet you and share a good sweat with you and hear your stories and how we can all kind of get together here and promote good Finnish quality sauna bathing.
You remember Dan and Eric came on the show, and Eric was planning on building his own sauna. So my brother and his friend Eric, and they've started that process. It's going to be a rather interesting sauna. I think the hot room's 9 foot tall, and then they have a short changing area or entrance area. I could show pictures to you guys if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be great.
Is it going to be like a platform bottom or is it going to be just like multiple tiered benches?
I think there's a couple tiers. I think they're gonna have 2 tiers. Let me see.
Compared to wood burning, right?
Electric, actually. He went with
Okay.
electric.
Let's take a look.
So his son got a bunch of high school guys together and they're learning about woodworking and framing. You can see it in the back.
Oh,
Mhm.
very cool.
Yeah, so you can see the hot room's tall, pretty decent size, and then with the flattened off ceiling, which is always good in a sauna. The changing room or entrance room is going to be on the front with a way shorter roof so that you can have a window when you're sitting up on that top bench, be able to look off into the woods there. So you can
Yeah.
kind of see a
Yeah.
little bit where that window
Yeah.
is going to be to see out.
That'll be some nice indirect light for the room as well. I've got a similar situation with the skylight in mine, just a series of glass blocks that diffuses the light from the shop. With that foundation, Risto, basically leveled off crushed granite or some kind of a rock there. And then was there a concrete pad or did they just use a couple of footers down into the ground?
Yep. I think their footers are just set though. I think it's
Okay.
however many inches of that crushed gravel. But
Yep.
then I think where the footer went, they maybe dug down a little bit and then put the footer on top of that. And then they tied everything into those footers. So there's some treated 6x6s.
Sure. No, that's very cool. And that's a great project and really something that a lot of people can do. It gets a little daunting, but if you break it up into some easy steps, really it comes down to site prep. Get that base good with whatever leveling material or if you pour a pad or something like that. Good site prep is going to go a long ways because that structure is going to end up being pretty heavy. When you start putting out wood on both sides of those studs, that building becomes pretty darn heavy. So make sure that site prep is key, making sure that anything that you're putting into the ground there has proper drainage, isn't in the path of anything that is going to give way. We've been talking today, if you just joining us, we talked a little bit about the hurricane effects up in North Carolina and just things giving way. When you've got water, especially coming through, things give way. So make sure that you do take proper drainage into effect when you're building these little sheds and these little outbuildings, especially if you're out in, your hunting land. There's no survey and you're just going out. Oh, there's a flat patch of grass. Take a look. How close are you to some running water? Where does rainfall water go on your land? So keep these things in mind so you've got a good sturdy base. Without that, you're going to be having a bad time. So
Did they decide on the paneling yet? What wood is gonna be?
He did. He told me. I'm trying to remember. I think it's either alder or aspen. I can't remember which one people use most often. The aspen. I think that's the way he was leaning.
well, and it's economical. I mean, it shouldn't be too price prohibitive.
Yep.
I did pine and I love it.
Yeah. So
It,
represent.
Pine Army.
Yeah.
there's gonna be more and more heat treated pine, knotted or knotted. And I'm not sure, by the way, is this hemlock kind of a pine?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. It's so I've actually got some pieces not on me. Oh, here they are. I've got some pieces of some different woods from my days of yore working in that industry. I really like hemlock. Let me see if I can find a piece of it. Here we go. This stuff is pretty good. I mean, you guys can
Okay.
see that you got some slight grain here, but it's light. It does seem to be a little bit more dense than pine, but not by much. So it's pretty soft in the overall scheme of things. It's no oak, but if you bump into it, you're probably going to dent it a little bit. But it's probably got a little bit more durability than as far as like a soft cedar that can gouge up pretty good. Or some of those aspens or abaches, those are pretty light, not very dense. So those ones can mark up pretty good. But as far as a grain and consistency of performance, I don't think you can go wrong. If you can get cheaper hemlock, go for it. But always make sure too, if you're dealing with lumber yards or if you're dealing with the building stuff yourself, make sure you're out there inspecting it and hand picking it. If you're just calling up your lumber yard saying you want X amount and they just are going to show up with it, you're going to get stuck with whatever they bring you. So if you've got a chance to go and hand pick your boards, you're looking for good, even grain, not a lot of knots where the joints or where the tongue and groove is. If you go in that direction, there's little things that you can look at. Take a board, look at it, take a line of sight down it. Is it wavy? Is it doing the snake curve, or is it doing just kind of a nice long natural bow? And take a look at those things because those are all going to come into play, especially when you start heating it and cooling it and getting humidity levels varying. You want to make sure you've got the best you can to start with because it's going to change. It doesn't matter how good of a piece of wood you've got in a interior sauna, it's going to change over time. So you want to make sure you've got a good starting point there too, because if you've got little defects or knots where they shouldn't be, they're going to become a problem a year down the road.
But just by the way, I just saw some pictures while overseas of benches that were totally ruined by Clorox. People are using like the heavy stuff to clean them, and they just like disintegrate.
Yeah. And really, people need to learn how to take care of wood. It's not rocket science, be it interior wood, exterior wood, whatever that is. Just make sure you can Google these things, people. ChatGPT knows how to treat wood. Just ask it. It'll give you some great tips and tricks. But make sure taking care of these things is not rocket science, especially when it comes to sauna. These things have been around for hundreds of years. These chemicals and cleaners and things like that have not. And guess what? These saunas have stood the test of time. Sometimes all you need is just a couple drops of Dawn dish soap and some water, and then really dilute that and just get a nice bristle brush and give it a good scrub down once in a great while. But really, the key to keeping your bench is good, and I will preach this until I am long gone. But it's prevention. Don't put your bare cheeks on bare wood. You're going to sweat right into it, and that's just a great way to increase smells, mildews, just and gross stuff. So sit on a towel, sit on a sauna mat, whatever you got, sit on something because wood does get hot too. Abachi and other lighter woods, aspens, not as hot. But if you've got pine benches or even cedar benches, can get warm on that bare skin. So for your safety, make sure you've got some kind of a barrier there because you don't know if all of a sudden a nail or a screw got loose and it's sticking out maybe just a little bit. We've all had that where you lean back and all of a sudden you got a little hot spot or something that's, oh, that's hot. So yeah, backrests are obviously a personal preference and things like that. But make sure if you are making custom backrests, making it out of a wood that doesn't get crazy hot. That sometimes is a little bit of a forgotten art because using the same wood that you're using for your interior cladding may not be the best wood to be sitting on and or leaning up against. So it's okay to mix species. When somebody says they've got a pine sauna, and that's me. I'm in that category. But guess what? I've got a little bit of cedar trim on some of the benches, and I've got a couple other pieces, different woods sprinkled throughout. But because yeah, sitting on pine, it gets hot. I got to sit on a towel.
Yeah, and even if you get, like, the coolest, lightest wood, it still can get pretty hot. Our walls are pine just because it was the cheapest wood, but our bench where we're sitting, the platform is, basswood, which is way lighter, but after it's been heating for an hour and a half, especially our platform can get pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just like anything else, if you build something out of a very non dense wood, it will deteriorate faster than a denser wood. So you are going to have to replace it and or maintain it a little bit more carefully. That's why I make my benches completely detached from the room itself. I can slide my bench whole structure out. I might have to undo a couple of screws because it's in an L and I've got those screwed together, but it is independent. So if I want, I go down to Home Depot, $50 later, I've got new benches, brand new, because I don't need anything crazy special. I just want to be sitting at the right height.
Yeah, and that's a good idea. The more I use sauna, the more I kinda lean that direction. We went and used a sauna in northern Minnesota, and it was built by a sauna company. But, they're probably pretty new to sauna, and they're building the modern saunas that look really nice, big glass wall, but the bench is, like, all enclosed, like, all the way down to the floor, and there's no way to clean below that, and it's like this massive structure that is not gonna be easy to move or clean or change out. Whereas I go up to the UP, and I see a lot of these pictures in the UP, and their benches are just like a 2 by 8 or a 2 by 10 just straight across, and that's
Yeah.
not aesthetically it doesn't look as nice, but it is, like, super functional. You can clean under there, you can replace that bench. For them, sauna is an everyday part of life. It has to be functional.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I've got a buddy who's got a hunting shack, sauna, and it's literally just cinder blocks against the wall, and then you can slide in 2 by 4s, and those are the benches, and you can actually oh, you wanna go a little bit higher? Stack another set of cinder blocks up there, you just went up 6 inches, boom, which is actually really cool because you can just tear those 2 by 4s right out of there, and you've got a room if you wanna just go in there and stand up or need more room for storage when you leave, and pack up camp or something like that. And having that versatility, I think it is a lot of fun because you opened it up. Yeah, my old sauna back when I lived in Minnesota had a bench that literally, when people came over and we wanted to sit around the bonfire and I needed more seating, I went in there and we grabbed it and we pulled it out and sat it next to the bonfire. And then, oh, hey, you guys want to go sauna? Oh, hey, lift this up. We need this to go sit on it. And it just kind of came with us. So, and it was just an old pine bench that I'd thrown together, and you're sitting on a towel and you hose it off once in a while and you're good to go. But especially because back then I didn't have a floor drain. So I didn't want to be hosing everything off. I wanted to be able to just take that bench out. Plus, I could take that bench out and sand it, not inside the sauna, generating all that sawdust, getting in your stove or on your rocks or anything like that. I could take that bench away from the sauna, sand it down, make it look brand new, and boom, bring it back in, and we're good to go. And that's something that I'm kind of thinking about with my current build is I do need to sand the walls. I've got some little bit of splintering or maybe a little bit of whatever things that have happened over time. So I'm gonna kind of have to prep that stove. I'm gonna just grab a contractor bag and plastic and really just duct tape it all to it so I don't get any sawdust in there because I have read and heard of guys that kind of forgot about doing that. They went to go sand inside their sauna and then sawdust gathered in their stove and in their rocks, and you're going to get a burning, smoky incense burner at the end of the day. You're going to have a pretty rough sauna there for the first half an hour until you burn that stuff out of there or wash it out or do whatever you can. So just something to think about.
I've changed my thinking. I used to, and I've said it many times over on these podcasts, but I used to, the heavily compromised saunas, I used to call them hot boxes. And I'm trying not to do that anymore. I'm calling them dry boxes because makes more sense because that's the direction we went here in North America with these saunas. So people every day you talk to people, they talk about no, we have a dry sauna. And again, we've covered this many times over, but I still don't understand what the dry sauna means. But it's a dry box. It's a dry box, and it's got all these issues that we're talking about. And when an architect designs a dry box, the skirts are going to be screwed in. So you're not supposed to clean the dry box because what is there to clean? But like you Sam said, it's the butt sweats and the rest of the body sweats and whatnot. So it's like eventually there is no such a thing as a dry box. It's just an illusion, basically.
Uh, I think we should build like a conversion kit for these different popular kit models. Like I was thinking it's like a shower pan or a drain or something like that, where it's a little platform. So you could just lift up your kit sauna and then slide this underneath it. It elevates your kit sauna maybe 3, 4 inches, but then we send along a 3 inch hole saw and you can punch a hole in your little kit and boom, you can insert a floor drain right there. You might need some Flex Seal or some linoleum or something, if depending on what the floor material looks like. But how cool would that be to have a little hook up a little hose, almost like your dehumidifier. Hook up a little hose to it, let that water drain out into wherever your floor drain is. But then boom, you can splash water around all you want.
Well, and the benches probably need to be higher anyway, so you'll be able to incorporate that.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
I'm constantly saying the same thing over and over, that use of water in the hot room is a good idea. Arrow talked about this concept of what do I do in there? I just sit there and sweat. But in our sauna, we're cooling ourselves off with water, rinsing, especially if you're a newbie. But even if you've used it a long time, it's nice to rinse off a little bit of that sweat, even while you're still in the hot room,
Mhm.
and just to cool yourself off and extend it a little bit. Uh,
100%. Oh yeah, that there's no better feeling than being in that hot room and taking a little bit of cold water and splashing it on your face or letting it kind of just run on your hair and uh, just a quick breath of fresh air. That'll extend my session a good couple of minutes. If I could just
Yeah.
splash a little cold water on myself, boom, I'm in there for a little bit longer because I've got a second wind. And that's a great feeling. And even in like my sauna now doesn't have a floor drain. I built it on top of concrete in my shop, but I can still splash a little water around. The concrete sealed, and it's a quote unquote drier environment when the heat is up, so it does evaporate pretty well. Unfortunately, I can't do the bucket over my head, but someday I've got an idea to hook up a shop vac with a little gauge, maybe just kind of start sucking it up or something, but we'll see.
It's interesting. There's a cultural difference because I'm doing that sauna I've been talking about it. I'm doing that sauna with my buddies in Stamford, Connecticut here. And I never, ever basically drink anything inside the hot room. Nothing, not water, not anything. But the one thing that I really need, actually, I also love to throw a bucket of water on top of my head, but I have to rinse my eyes. My eyes are super sensitive. I don't want to go outside to do that. Just depending on if there aren't any drops of anything, then I'm gonna use the bucket water.
Yeah.
And if that's not doable, then I'm gonna use the hose. That's like the bare minimum, right? So I need some water inside the hot room.
I'm right there with you with the sensitive eyes. I mean, my when sweat gets in my eyes, that sucks. I want to try to incorporate a sauna hat that has like a sweat band built into it, like the old basketball players wore, and just yeah, sew that into the brim of the hat so it fits a little bit snugger. And then so yeah, maybe the sweat doesn't just drip down into my eyes because that's a pain.
and it's salty. You're basically just getting salt in your eyes. So you do want to rinse that off. And
Hmm.
I learned that use of the water from a Finnish American guy, Steve Kodula. You guys probably are familiar with Steve, but when I went and sounded with him, he gave us each like our bucket of water, and then I just noticed how much he used in the hot room. It was like way more than I ever used. So I picked that up from him.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know known, and maybe you wouldn't have tried that if you're out there by yourself, just saunaing. Hey, I'm just supposed to sit here and sweat until I can't take it anymore, and then I'm going to get out. So yeah, getting stuff involved in there. I mean, there's steam to be made, there's washing to be done, there's stretching to be done. There's a million more things than just sitting in there thinking that you're having a bad time. If you're just sitting in there, just experiencing it, waiting to get out, you're completely closed off to what it's all about.
I mean, once you add all those things, the rinsing, making steam, but making steam regularly, not just like once per round. You might even use a towel or something to wave it around, or maybe you have some of the branches to wave that air around. You can beat yourself with the branches, conversation. Maybe you're cooking some sausage. There's a lot that is happening in that hot room.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right.
So again, just to kind of recap where we're at, guys, we're going to Toronto in a couple of weeks here. It's coming fast. I can't believe it. 7th through the 11th, we'll be in Toronto. Come check us out. We're going to be at a bunch of different public saunas. We'd love to meet you guys. So again, thank you for coming in to the chat. We love seeing all the different international fans and listeners. It's great to see that the sauna community is a worldwide community and not just here in the States or not just in Finland. We talk a lot about Finnish sauna because that is the cultural heritage and the experience that we really enjoy and are passionate about. But again, if you're sitting in any sort of a hot room and you enjoy listening to three guys talk about getting sweaty, we're the place for you. And if you've got comments, questions, concerns, or even suggestions about future topics that you want to hear us debate, talk through, or just get involved with, please drop us a line. There's a million ways to get a hold of us, either YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, just good old fashioned email. You can check us out at the upper bench, or you can check me out at that sauna guy on Instagram. Risto, you're out there. Eero, you're out there. Just get a hold of us. We'll make sure we point you in the right direction. We're not going to steer you wrong. And if we don't know the answer, we can go find out who it is from one of the guys that we know. So we can point you in the right direction. So again, thanks for joining us here on this impromptu live stream. We're going to be chatting here for a few more minutes, just about anything and everything. But Risto, Eero, what am I missing?
I was just going to say something. The making steam part that we were just talking about. You have to be careful with that because that's addictive. That is super addictive. Once you
Yeah,
go that route, you're not going to come back. You're never ever going to come back. You're never ever going to sit there by yourself staring at the wall because that's not how it works. And obviously, the bigger the public sauna, there's going to be some issues because if they even allow you to throw steam, that's one thing. But when you're in a private sauna, that's the whole deal. That's almost the whole deal. I haven't made steam for a while. I'm going to make steam like crazy right now.
absolutely.
Mm.
I'm going to make steam like crazy this afternoon because I know every time we chat, I get so jazzed up. I got to go start the fire. I'm just looking forward to it now. And I've even gotten my significant other. It was a little leery when it came to a lot of steam, but she's not one for the high temps like I am. But even now, I'll go to throw a little bit of water on, and she's, oh, do one more. Yeah, just one more. So I'm slowly getting her to come around to it because again, a lot of steam, it feels a little intense, but again, getting that body involved in the experience. You're not just sitting there in a warm room sweating. You're going through ups and downs that whole time. So, and it's fun. It feels good. That whole body steam is where it's at.
Exactly. And now there's now there's this new thing for me. I'm an old man now here, so I have to point out new things like these tower heaters. Now they are like a new fad for me. When I was growing up, there were no tower heaters. So
Mhm.
anyway, so there's a difference in philosophy nowadays, and this is I'm slowly getting into it. So with the tower heater, the idea is that you can keep the heat lower, but you compensate with the steam. So the steam is more humid, it's more enveloping. I've been reading these brochures of whatever websites, and I thought that there was a mistake because they state that this heater can be used in, I don't know, 160, 165. And I'm like, I don't want to go to a sauna with that low temp. But that's not the thing. Obviously, the worst case scenario is that you have this kind of heater, you keep the heat low, but you don't make the steam. It's kind of like a negative thing. If you're one of the guys who never make steam, so then you have to put the heat up so that
Right.
you're actually going to make that sweat.
Oh, yeah, that is one thing I do enjoy about the tower heaters is they are kind of more promoting generating steam. You've got access to a large amount of rocks. You're starting to see larger rock masses, which I think is a great move in the right direction for the industry. Before, you didn't have these heaters that had 200 kilos of stones, and now you're seeing those in these big rock tower heaters. Now, again, though, you're not heating that up in 30 minutes. That tower heater is not ready to go in 30 minutes. You got to let that thing heat up. But then again, when you're sitting there and it is up to temp, you can just throw water in the general direction of the stove and you're hitting rocks, which is great. I think that's fun because it does promote splashing around a lot of water. So if you've got a big rock tower heater and no floor drain, that's like having a jet airplane, but you're putting 87 octane into it. You're not getting the most out of it.
Yeah, that by the way, you're touching that good topic right there. Oh, I try to stay out from social media when it comes to saunas and these discussions. Obviously, like Risto can't because he's running a good discussion forum there. But some people's point is that it's not a good sauna, it's not a good heater. It takes so long to heat up. And boy, aren't you mistaken there? Because if it takes a long time to heat up, there's something to wait for, right? It's well, don't ever go and use a smoke sauna if the heating up timing is an issue for you.
Right. And and
Yeah.
and that's the case. These things are not the instant gratification machines like some of the, dare I say, these dry boxes are promoting, heating up in 15 minutes, heating up in 20 minutes. How many people would rather have a 15-minute lasagna in a microwave or their grandmother's that was in the oven all day? I'll get in line for the good thing because it's always well worth it. So again, I can push my heater. Sometimes if I'm in a rush, let's say I'm really just trying to get a quick steam in, I might try to overdo it and try to run my stove a little bit hot. But then again, I'm getting a lot of radiant heat. And that then you're fighting that contrast battle. Do you want a lot of radiant heat coming from your stove, or do you want ambient, all enveloping, even heat from the room? And sometimes I will. I'll sacrifice that even heat for some radiant heat so that I can at least make steam and get some circulation going that way. And I kind of I cheat the system a little bit, but I know that I'm suffering equality a little bit because I'm cheating it. But again, that's stuff that I've learned over time how to do. And I've learned my stove and I know how much wood I need to get to certain temps and at what time. And that takes a lot of time. I mean, I've had at least over 100 to 200 saunas in that sauna so far. It's taken some time to learn the old girl, but now I've got it running like a top.
If you're really concerned about the convenience part and having it ready quickly, then you go with electric and you get something that still has a ton of rocks, but it's electric and you just set your timer. You have it heating up. That's probably going to be the way that I would advise someone to go.
Oh, 100%. If you're on a schedule and you know you want a sauna at 6 a.m., there's plenty of electric controllers and apps nowadays where you can turn it on from your phone and have it ready to go if you know how long it average takes to warm up. So just be careful with some of those things. I don't recommend you turn your sauna on when no one is home. Again, that's just me being a kind of a safety guy. But if you're so inclined and you're good to go, you could turn the thing on in your drive home if you wanted to. But again, I get a little leery about nobody leaves their stove on when they're not home. Why would you leave your sauna on? Again, that's going to be a personal risk. And good luck trying to explain that one to the insurance companies. Why'd your house burn down? Well, I got this app on my phone and I turned my sauna on.
That's a good point. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. It's only just because I don't have that experience. But for me, sauna is a process. Not that I would mean that it every time means that you have to split wood and carry it and bring some water in, whatever. That's not the point. But I can't do sauna as an instant gratification kind of a thing. My sauna process starts from the moment when I either press a knob or light the fire. So yeah, it takes way longer for me. But anyway, so we have to let Sam go to light his fire and
Absolutely.
get his sauna going. And do I envy you guys? But I have to settle for a nice meal with my wife right after this.
Nothing wrong with that either. Well, yeah, guys. No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you all to who have been watching and have been with us since the beginning here. And you know what? If you're just joining us on the rewatch, on the re-premiere, again, we're going to be out in Toronto November 7th through the 11th. Come check us out. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, all those fun things. Risto, what do you got going on the rest of the today?
I think I'm going to take it easy. I watched a little bit of the Vikings football game. They won.
Yeah.
So just otherwise, just hanging with the family, enjoying the fall weather.
Absolutely. No, get out there, enjoy it, people. If it's sunny where you're at, enjoy it. If it's raining, bring an umbrella. Thank you all for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.